That is a topic I would love to discuss.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I could turn that into like a 3-hour podcast.
It would be
It's
better,
not longer, actually.
to do a 3-part podcast. So let's
Yeah, in parts. Yeah.
just get it
Like
started.
a half hour here and a half hour there.
Yes.
I don't know how to make the damn thing work.
Oh, you getting it, Jerry?
We're on.
Yeah.
You guys must not have anything important to say anyhow.
We're broadcasting, Jerry. Don't worry. Whatever
Oh,
you
well, yeah, we don't want to bore people if anybody's watching.
whatever you
So-
say is extremely important.
What's that?
Now,
I mean, there just needs to be change. There needs to be change leaders and some leaders that, want things to change, that want to get in there and, I don't know, create some kind of oversight for children that are really abused. I mean, didn't it used to be back in the 30s and 40s, they just used the police? The police were the ones that handled, if there was an abused child or whatever. I don't know what happened in the 30s and 40s.
you're almost that old. You tell us what was happening.
Oh my gosh. You're funny, Charlie.
Jerry's old enough to be my dad. He wouldn't have had to have been a teenage father or anything.
Well, it's this whole, yeah. Well, it was the Clintons, right? That Bill Clinton signed the Adoption and Safe Families Act, right?
You obviously know something I don't. Tell us about it. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's an act that Bill Clinton signed that was called the Adoption and Safe Families Act. If you look it up.
So it was promoting foster. You're saying?
Yeah, it was a money train. It was adding more money for foster care. Oh, let's put this money to where it should be, for adoption and for foster families. It's called the Adoption and Safe Families Act that Clinton signed into law. Okay. I think it was in 90. Well, Clinton was 90.
2001.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it's Jack loves that little boy.
I've only seen the
ASFA. They labeled it ASFA, Adoption and Safe Families Act. I'm trying to pull up my computer while I'm talking to you, but yeah, I mean, because during our case, that's what I did. I was researching and trying to find the money trail and where the money was going and how it was all played out. And that was a big part of, we don't really know. We know we got our kids back. We just did not quit until we got our kids back. But I did research. I did all my research and researched how much money they were getting a day. I researched about the Adoption and Safe Families Act that Clinton signed, and I posted about all that on Facebook, all the stuff I found.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that if it goes back to the 90s, because I really only became aware that the federal government were promoting.
Can I hear you? Just not. Yeah, we will try something else.
It was 1997. To improve the safety of children, to promote adoption and other permanent homes for children who need them, and to support families. 96-272, the major federal law enacted in 1980 to assist the states in protecting and caring for abused and neglected children.
All right, we've got to make sure we've got Jerry online. Hang on a second.
Okay.
Jerry, are you hearing us now? I'll take that as a no.
I'm going to email this link to you.
Jerry, how many fingers am I holding up?
Okay.
How many fingers am I holding up? How many fingers am I holding up now? I take it Jerry is not hearing anything we're saying. So this dysfunctional.
You really didn't know about that, Charles? You didn't know about
What I was about.
you've never heard of the Adoption and Safe Families Act?
I didn't know it goes back that far. What I was going to say.
Yeah, 1997.
What I was going to tell you was that I only became aware of the states and federal government promoting adoptions in the past 10 years. I really hadn't heard that it was a major program before then.
Well, let's see, 2021 minus 1997, that's 24 years. So yeah, it's been, yeah, so 24 years. But yeah, I just emailed a link to you about it on a summary of it. So check that out. So.
You know about Jerry because he's sitting there and he's not hearing.
It's supposed to be about family preservation and supporting services. See this fiscal year 1999 at 275 million, fiscal year 2000 at 295 million. Continues eligibility for the Title IV adoption assistance subsidy to children whose adoption is disrupted.
Okay, we've got to get.
Oh, Jerry. Okay, yeah.
We're missing a party here.
Okay. Jerry, are you trying to call him?
Jerry, you were not hearing anything on the video? Is that what's going on?
That's what's going on.
Okay, because I can hear Lynette just fine. What appears to be your problem?
If I knew, I'd fix it.
Well, what can we do to help? I mean,
We can see you, but we can't hear you.
I'll call my expert. Listen, David, can you get the speaker to work on this damn thing? Well, I don't know. If that'll work, that's fine.
Hey, David.
Try going down there.
Well, I went to here.
You go down here and go to your settings and Zoom.
And Zoom, where is that?
We cannot be here until we are all here.
Okay, we won't resume, Charles. I'll put my stuff on hold and I'll do some more research, okay?
Ask to unmute.
I'll
Here.
get my little laptop going while you're. Okay.
Jerry, can you hear now? Hi, David. No sound coming through yet?
When Trump signed into law, we just got to get Trump back. We just want President Trump back.
Hang on, what did he sign into law?
Huh?
He signed into law.
Who, Trump?
Yeah.
It's called Family First. Trump's Family First law. It created an overhaul of the foster care system, and it sent everybody scrambling in all the HHS. I'll wait till Jerry gets.
Okay, do we have you? You muted yourself. Okay, Jerry, can you hear us now? Hello, Jerry, can you hear us now?
There we go.
We can hear you now. Jerry, can you hear us?
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm gonna email this to you too, Charlie.
You send it to Jerry?
Pardon?
What?
Can you send it to Jerry?
Yeah, what's his email?
O'Neill@sentrytel.net.
With no apostrophe.
Oneill.
No,
One
one,
L.
no.
What's
I
that?
don't need, one L is enough L for me.
Oneil.
Mm-hmm. That's Century Tale, Century like 100 years. Tell like the first three letters of telephone. Net like what you might catch a fish in if the game were just not watching.
CenturyTelNet.net.
.net.
Okay. All right. All right.
Hey, can you all see that? I just put it up on the screen, I believe. Did I do that right? Lynette, can you all see it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the ASPA. That's the Clinton law.
What does it say? I can't read it.
Let me send that to, oh no, that came back. That must not be the right email for Jerry. Hold on.
Tell us how it affected you. Tell us how it affected you.
Well, you need to put up the other one. Hang on, did I email you the Trump law? Hold on. Hold on a minute, because I think I emailed you the Trump law and I tried to send it to I don't have the right email for Jerry. You're gonna have to put it in the chat. Can you put it in the chat, Jerry?
What?
Put Jerry's email in the chat for me. Type it out for me.
O'Neill.
Huh?
Where's the chat?
Net. I just sent it to you. I got that right, Jerry? Can you see it in the chat?
Yeah, the air's on, Jack. I don't know what's wrong with it. Hold on a second here.
What is chat? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
What are you doing?
Okay. Yeah. Hold on here. Okay. ONEI. Okay. Yeah, I sent it to that email, but it came back.
You're missing the show. They're about to go get the little boy.
Okay.
Okay.
What is your email address?
Oh, hang on a second here.
You just sent you sent a link to USA Today, is that right?
Yeah, the USA Today one. Mm-hmm.
What is it?
She sent a link to USA Today, and I'll share this too. But I want to know. I mean, what I want Lynette to talk about is what effect all this had on her.
Well, yeah, because Trump signed that in when Trump was in office. And that really made a difference because, I mean, our kids came home. He signed that. When did he sign that bill? I'm trying to remember.
It says
I think
May 5th, 2018.
The Family First Act. Yeah, when was that signed? He signed that in
May 5th, 2018.
Yeah, in 2018. And once he signed that, I started talking about that on like social media, trying to, educate people about it. And because what it did is it changed the funding for foster care and group homes. You know how they have group homes and things for kids when they're in foster care. And I just held their feet to the fire is what I did. I just kept holding their feet to the fire and just,
Tell me what you
I
did.
mean, I wouldn't say that,
Lynette, tell us what you did. How did you hold their feet to the fire? Tell us exactly what you did.
by posting on social media. They were watching my social media.
Wow. I mean, so, you know, I think that this really illustrates an interesting point. People think, and people in law school, people in studying law are taught to think that family law is entirely a state matter and that it's up to the individual states to regulate it. But the reality is that family law has been entirely co-opted by the federal government through Title 42, and that there is no state, there's no such thing as independent state control over family law anymore that I can see at all. What's your experience with that, Jerry?
I guess I was being deluded because I thought when I was in the legislature, we were actually making a difference in family law. Of course, that was before 2018 too.
Well, no, what Lynette is saying is that this statute, what was it called in 1997? The family.
ASFA, it's ASFA, Adoption and Safe Families Act.
So-
The Adoption and Safe Families Act that the Clintons signed in.
Well, what constitutional authority does the federal government have to do that?
Good question. Yeah, that's definitely a good question. How do they have the oversight to, how do they control, well, they control the money, right? I mean,
Oh, okay, they buy our vote, okay.
Well, no, but they also distribute. It's very much like Social Security, I think. And as a matter of fact, it's part of the Social Security program.
yeah, part of the Social Security. Well, Title IV funding, you know what Title IV is, right?
Will you tell us?
Okay, so the Title IV, yeah, that's the Social Security money. It's tied in with the Social Security money. Title IV-E for foster care. It's the program that has the eligibility, that's where the allowable funding for foster care. Under Title IV-E of the Social Security Act, states, territories, and tribes are entitled to claim partial federal reimbursement for the cost of providing foster care, adoption assistance, and kinship guardian assistance to children who meet federal eligibility criteria.
That's where the social workers get paid for tearing families apart.
Yeah, that's those social workers get paid where they are with the families that they tear apart and everything. It's under Title IV-E.
Just for example, do you have any idea how your family was qualified for this so-called assistance?
Okay, so when they opened a case on us, obviously they charged both Jack and I with child support. That we were supposed to pay child support while our kids were in foster care. And I was like, oh, heck no. Why would I pay child support when the state took my kids illegally and came into my home illegally without a warrant and took my kids and searched my home? I am not going to pay child support for that. But the funding, they got funding for remember, like we talked about it on that last episode, they got is $14 a day. And they want it. So what they're doing is they're double dipping. It's called double and triple dipping, actually, because they're getting money for each day that the kids are in foster care. And then they're out there charging parents and charging parents for child support when they take their kids. It's like they're, that's insane. I was just like, this is, oh, whoa.
Mama,
Yeah.
we're not sorry for you to watch the fireworks the neighbors are going off.
Oh,
Oh, shoot, oops.
yeah. I'm talking to Charlie. Can I
Hold
say
on,
hi?
mute yourself.
You want to join?
Yeah.
Hello.
How are you doing tonight? Can you
I'm
join?
doing good. I'm about to go watch fireworks.
Some neighbors outside are putting off New Year's fireworks.
Where is
Such a beautiful family, you really do.
Yeah, I'm glad to have my beautiful family back. I really am. And every Christmas and every New Year's and every birthday, I hold that much dearer because of those 2 years that I didn't have my kids. And I feel for every person out there that's lost children that have to post, where is my child? I don't know where, somebody doesn't know where their grandchild is, or it breaks my heart. I tried to be an advocate to get out there and just, make it known about everything that they were doing. I was like, this is just wrong. I just didn't give up. I did not give up until I got my kids back.
What do your kids think about it?
What about
Getting
About
back
what?
to you, they're getting their family back together.
Yeah, of course they're happy. We have our moments as a family, where we fight like every other family, but yeah, they're glad to have their family back. They really are. They're happy that their mom and dad are back together, and it's still taken. Here it is 2 years. It's been 2 years, and we're still trying to undo a lot of programming and just stuff that they taught our kids and devalued us as parents in their eyes. We're innocent parents, but we were made out to be guilty, and in their eyes, in our children's eyes, they tried to devalue us as parents, but they couldn't break our kids. They could not break our kids, and they didn't.
Good.
And I'm so proud of my girls that they stood tough. They're like, my dad's not. My mom is not guilty. They're not guilty of anything. My parents are good parents, and we want to go home. When are we going to go home? We're tired. They just stuck it out. They just kept going, and they were just like, we want to go home. We want to go home. When are we going to go home? And they got tired of hearing it, I think. So I guess they're like, oh, give the beavers back. Okay. Give back the beavers.
I'm going to sell my very radical position. I've told Jerry before, and I don't know that I've told you before. Jerry asked the question, what constitutional authority does the federal government have for standardizing?
Your sound isn't coming through very good.
My sound is not coming through. Okay. Is it any better right now?
Yes.
Okay, I guess I have to be very close to this microphone. Is this
Close to the microphone. Mhm.
Okay, please tell me, because I have a terrible time. I got this fancy microphone. Maybe I need a better one, but you can hear me okay now?
I
It
can
cuts-
if Leah wasn't playing with her dog right here by me. Leah, I'm trying to listen to my Zoom call, baby. You playing with the dog? Oh, okay. Yeah, I can hear you
Is this any better?
Yeah.
better.
Seems all right. Yeah.
Is this better?
Until
Yes,
you start
sir.
speaking. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me just, assuming you hear me, let me try to explain what I think is going on. Jerry asked the question, what authority does the federal government have to regulate the way that states control the family and the way states interfere with family? Of course, the officially claimed reason for everything the federal government does these days is the Commerce Clause. But without going into too much detail about why that is a questionable position, I want to say that I think that, in fact, there is a specific provision of the Constitution that actually prohibits the federal intervention in the Constitution, and probably extends to the states also. And that is the First Amendment, properly understood, the Establishment Clause. Very few people ever look at what the Establishment Clause meant to the founders in 1791 when they adopted the Bill of Rights. But just as we are 230 some odd years from the adoption of the Bill of Rights, 2021 to 1791. The founders in 1791 were 230 years away from something called the Act of Establishment, the original Act of Establishment of the Church of England. And what the original Act of Establishment of the Church of England was all about was replacing the Roman Catholic Church during the Reformation as the chief regulator of family and personal life. In the medieval period, the Catholic Church had all power over marriage, baptism, education of children, everything. And in the Reformation, of course, we all know that King Henry declared himself the head of the English Church, and his daughter Elizabeth inherited a chaotic situation, a totally chaotic situation where nobody really understood what the new Church of England was going to be like. And so she went through the process of Parliament of adopting a new Book of Common Prayer. And the new Book of Common Prayer in England took the entire place of Catholic law with regard to things like baptism, education, marriage, every other aspect of life. And it became simultaneously the law of England, the law of the Kingdom of England, and the law of the Church of England. And so, properly understood, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution was designed specifically to prohibit the establishment of of anything equivalent to the Church of England in the United States. And so, what are the implications of that? The implications of that are that the federal government, by the First Amendment, was denied the power to regulate baptism, regulate child education and rearing, and regulating the institution of marriage or the dissolution of marriage. All those fields were completely denied to the federal government if you properly interpret the First Amendment. And yet Title 42, which is public health and welfare, Title 42, public health and welfare of the United States Code, has come to be the modern, 40 volume. It's the largest of all the titles in the federal code.
Are you saying 22 or 42?
Title 42, Title 42, just the same as civil rights, same as environment. All those things are subsumed under Title 42. But all the federal regulation of family law and adoption and foster care and all the things we deal with in the family court, all the things that Lynn is talking about, come directly out of Title 42 and public health and welfare. And nobody has ever challenged it, Jerry, as far as I know, and Lynette. Nobody has ever challenged it on these grounds. I submit that reading the original definition of the First Amendment in light of the Establishment Acts of the reign of Queen Elizabeth and the founders' intent to prohibit the establishment of a national church, everything in Title 42 relating to the family, relating to child rearing and control is unconstitutional. And that's what, Lynette says that she can do a whole series on whether family courts are of any value or not. Jerry, you've got vast experience in family courts. And so that's what I really want to be the topic that we follow out. What do you think of my idea? And what do you want to do with the family courts?
Well, I think the family court should be by the state. And I have been very fortunate a couple times in my life to have a family court to iron out problems, to make decisions that I wasn't able to make or some of my clients weren't able to make. So I wouldn't want to abolish it. As far as in Montana, the family court is part of the regular court, I guess, but it's got its own laws. I mean, we got our family laws in Montana. I suppose most states do have their family laws.
But they're basically controlled and established and regulated and implemented. They implement federal law. Yeah, I mean, that is what Lynette brings up about the so-called services, the social services, whereby families are torn apart. They call that social services. I mean, I occasionally see David walking in the background. Now, Lynette, do you know Jerry's background in family law and why David is wandering around in the background here?
I do not. I'm not. No. I need to know more. Tell me, Jerry.
I mean, you've had basically of the three of us, I think you've had the most positive results of anybody in family court. And so you have less reason to hate the family courts than Lynette and I do.
Oh, okay. We're on opposite sides of the spectrum there, right? Yeah.
Would you explain what your background is so that Lynette and the audience can know where you're coming from?
Okay, in 1970, I guess, someplace around 1977, 1975, someplace in around there, my wife took the kids to a Catholic cult. And I followed to get my kids. I had to get the wife back. I thought that she was just a little brainwashed and she'd get over it. And she took them to Idaho, and I went over to Idaho. And after I was there for 6 weeks, I was then a resident of Idaho, so I could sue for divorce. So I sued for divorce and got custody of my 5 kids and brought them back to Montana. And then I went back to Idaho and talked the wife into coming back to Montana. And the bishop told her she could only come as a brother-sister relationship. And I thought she'd get over that, but she didn't. And then she applied to amend the divorce in Montana. And the court gave her more gave her a designated time with the kids, and it also told her not to be indoctrinating them into that cult. And then when she came back, then the brothers and sisters of the order would come back anytime she had the kids with her, and they take them out to old historic Catholic churches or what, and say the prayers with them and tell them how good they were and how bad I was and that I was of the devil and stuff like that.
Right.
So then I got tired of it. I hired some attorneys, and they were going to sue the group. And 2.5 years later, they hadn't did their job, and the court case was going to be dismissed for lack of action. So I took it over myself, and now I'm an independent paralegal, and also licensed to practice in the Blackfeet Tribal Court.
In short, you won. You took over and you won, and you got your kids.
Well, I got my kids. I had my kids before I sued them. That it moderated the religion when I got $1 million jury verdict. So I think I think the speaker went off somehow or other.
Oh, we can hear you.
Oh, we can hear you.
Oh, I thought you were wording something. Okay. So
No, I-
anyhow, that's kind of, and then after I got him back and got the jury verdict, which I never collected, or didn't collect much of it. And then I came back and I was invited to speak to a group called Children's Rights for Parents. And I joined them, and 3 of us drafted a bill to make joint custody to be presumed in the best interest of the child, everything else being equal. And then I started being a paralegal, independent paralegal, doing non-contested divorces, and started doing papers for contested divorces. And I've been
In all
doing that
states or just Montana?
mostly Montana, but I've also done it in Pennsylvania and North Dakota and Minnesota and Washington and maybe a couple of others.
Is it pretty
Idaho.
easy to do with, different states, or is it pretty easy?
They have different laws, but it's fairly
Yeah,
easy.
because the laws are different in all 50 states.
Right. But it's kind of basically the same in most of them. Oh, what are we doing?
Oh, somebody was shutting off fireworks outside. It sounded like
Oh,
gunshots.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're shooting guns here, I think.
Well, I've been watching that Yellowstone Kevin Costner show. It is based out of Montana. Montana
Yeah.
looks beautiful.
It's the most pretty country in the world when the sun shines.
When the sun shines, does the sun not shine very much?
Well, it doesn't. It could shine more.
So yeah, I can definitely see how the family, you had a good outcome in the family court system.
Most people,
Right. And I've helped other people get good outcomes in the family court system.
And you've helped other people have good outcomes. That's awesome.
And one of the things that pleases me is several people that I've done divorces for have later got back together. They
Wow.
didn't leave them with a big fight and antagonistic towards each other.
Wow. And they ended up getting back together after they got divorced.
Right.
Wow. Sounds like you've done some great stuff there, Jerry.
I'm happy with it. Thank you.
Well, God's definitely using you. That's awesome.
God uses everybody.
Yeah, he does. God uses all of us.
so Lynette, tell Jerry a little bit more about your story and why you have a less favorable view of the family courts. You were just writing that you think the problem are with the judges and the social service workers.
Well, it can vary because, there are people that have medical kidnap issues, like they take their child to a hospital and some doctor looks at a child's x-ray or something. It's crazy how I think the social services, it's just too, there needs to be some kind of oversight committee, something that can, I don't know, something that runs 24 hours, that no matter, not even if 2:00 in the morning or something, if something's going on, that somebody can, have some oversight, that they're not just going to go snatch a child unless they know for sure that that child's in imminent danger situation. I think there just needs to be some kind of overhaul, an oversight committee, somebody something needs to be created in our nations, all 50 states, everywhere, that it's national, that oversees the family courts in regards to social workers and foster care, that they're not just going to snatch a child and have, we have a foster parent who can take this child right now, that even if a foster parent gets called in the middle, it's just, I could, that could be a whole nother series. I could just do another.
Well, I think Montana has some sort of oversight committee, but I'm not real positive if it works. I think,
Live right now, elevation. Yeah. I'm sorry, what did you say,
I
Jerry?
think Montana has some sort of oversight committee.
I'm gonna move to
not-
Montana then. Okay.
Pardon?
I'm
Okay,
moving to Montana.
good, okay. I made $100 once by putting a suit on and going with some people to the Department of Public Health and Human Services or child division.
Oh my gosh, I think I need to move to Montana then.
They changed, the department had taken their child away from them. And because it had blisters on it and red rash, and they alleged that they put him in a hot bath.
Uh-huh.
And I convinced them, or they got convinced because I had a suit on and I had the title of senator at the time. They were convinced that they should take another look at it, and they had another doctor look at it, and he found that the child had hand, foot, and mouth disease.
Hand, foot, and mouth disease, yeah.
And they returned the child to them, but still, even though it wasn't their fault, they made the parents take parenting classes, which is stupid.
So they opened a case and made them do classes.
Right, and it had nothing to do with the case.
Wow. Yeah, it's definitely not black and white. I mean, that there's such a gray area in regards to foster care and, you know, cases with children. And because, I mean, yeah, there really is abuse. Abuse really happens out there. There are parents out there that neglect their children. And it's just such a gray area that
I used to have a database or mailing list of 200 to 300 people that stated positively that they had their children taken away from them because of child abuse. A
What
lot
have
of
you
it being
got?
sexual child abuse.
Oh. Yeah, like a registry. Yeah.
Well, I had just a list of before I was in the legislature, another senator had it, and he gave it to me when I was in the Senate.
Gary, I
Yeah.
don't quite understand. This is a list of people who affirmed that there was sexual abuse or who denied.
No, that were charged with sexual abuse,
Okay, so-
alleged to have sexually abused or otherwise abused their children, and a lot of them had their children taken away from them.
So you're saying that this is a list of people who said that the accusations were wrongful, as it was
Correct.
in the case of Lynette and Jack Beavers.
And I don't know how to tell if it's wrongful or not. Anyhow,
Well, the thing is, when they closed our case, they should have taken our names off that registry. If they found us substantiated for neglect, they gave our kids back. Why didn't they remove our names off the child abuse registry?
I did get pass a bill when I was in the legislature to make it so they would take a person's name off the registry.
Yeah, but only in Montana, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You
That's
got it.
awesome. Yay.
What state you in?
Well, this happened in Georgia.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, it's up to you to change it in Georgia, not me.
well, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't live in Georgia anymore, but can I change it if I don't live there? Don't I have to
you can
live
go
there to
lobby
change
for
it?
it.
Huh?
I can you can go lobby for it, and I'd be glad to give you a copy of the law that I got passed.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yes, definitely email me that. I'll put my email in the chat. Well, of course I emailed you something. You should have my email now. Because I think I got your email to go through. Yes, definitely, Jerry. Email me that.
Oh, okay.
Because then I could use it to lobby.
Did you say,
that-
okay,
yeah,
well,
when
send
they
me an
closed
email
our
asking
case.
for it so I'll remember it tomorrow.
What's that?
Send me an email asking for it so I'll remember it tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Yes, I definitely would do that, sir.
It's been quite a few years since I did it. And
Uh-huh.
I think actually the family services are glad to have it done. They wanted to.
I need to move to Montana. Oh my goodness.
So Jerry,
Yes.
do you think that there is less abusive foster care adoption in Montana than there might be other places?
I don't know.
I mean, for instance, I haven't heard about the Ezra's case, and I can't remember his last name. Ezra and Don's.
No, I don't think we want last names, but
Okay, well, I don't remember them, so I can't tell you. As Ezra and Don had a daughter/granddaughter who was, allegedly sexually abused. Has there been any talk about adoption or foster care in that case?
not that I've heard of. They haven't went to trial yet. And I think that's going to happen or settle out of court. I had an interesting thing happen the other day. Probably about 20, 25 years ago, I helped some friends to adopt this girl, this baby, young kid, and they adopted her. And last week, this girl called me, and her biological mother, her birth mother, had died, and she wanted to be set up as a personal representative for the estate. And her brother, I presume it's her brother, half brother, or the brother that stayed living with the mother, I guess, agreed to it. So she was supposed to come in the other day, but yesterday or today, but she was sick. So probably see her next week. But it's interesting to go back, have people like that come back after something, and she says that the adoption worked out good for her.
That's awesome. I love hearing about your success things, Jerry. That's great. So Sean wasn't able to join tonight, Charlie?
He was not. Well, I didn't, maybe I didn't get in touch with him soon enough. We'll be back for future installments here. But I'm interested. I mean, so your proposal basically is to have another level of oversight on top of the courts. Is that what you're saying? Or
Yeah, something that's completely separate, like separate from foster care, separate from the family court system, someone who doesn't have skin in the game, a committee that doesn't have skin in the game, that all they do is they sit on some kind of board and they oversee, or they look at evidence, they look at pictures, whatever these social workers try to use to try to take children, and they look at it and they make a decision. They can be a deciding factor on whether or not a child should stay in the home and make the parents do services if it's required, or if the children should come out of the home until the parents are, if they're doing drugs or they're not fit to be parents, then yeah, let's take the kids out and have the parents do rehab or, something. Or, I mean, it depends on what level that if they're like using drugs or, you know what I'm saying? I just think there needs to be an oversight committee that doesn't have skin in the game, that all they're there for is for the children, strictly for the best interest of the child.
what about removing the skin from the game? Seriously. What about
removing?
In other words, depriving the states of this stream of federal money that comes in through these federal interventions.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Removing the skin from the game. That should, yeah. that goes without saying. I think that's what Trump tried to do when he signed that Family First Prevention Act into law. Everybody was up in arms about that and angry. I mean, that, ticked off a lot of people, I know.
Who was angry about it?
Well, I'm sure that HHS was, DHS, because that changed the way they're funding the way they were funneling their money through, keeping families separated and keeping money coming in, and how they were farming kids out to group homes and things, and just, keeping kids away from parents. It changed the game is what it did. It changed the skin of the game, Charlie. That's what it did. Trump's act, the Family First Act, changed the skin of the game. So, because a lot of advocates out there, like I think I told you about, what's her name? Lucinda Pennington. Lucinda Pennington is her name. She goes out and she goes around to states, and she goes to court with parents and teaches parents how to use Trump's act that he passed into law to go into family courts and show them, hey, look, this Trump passed this act, and it reallocates the funding for foster care. So she teaches them how to use Trump's act to get their kids back.
Interesting, very interesting, and definitely more a field that I haven't looked into yet.
They haven't changed that yet?
What?
And they haven't repealed that act?
Oh, yeah, I know. Biden, I know he tried to reverse a lot of Trump's things when he came in. I think that would make a lot of people angry if he tried to repeal or, do away with that family act.
What would be the consequence, Jerry, Lynette, if Title 40, if all family provisions of Title 42 were eliminated and Social Security was taken out of family court altogether? I
think it should be, because we're not going to have our generation is not going to have any Social Security when we get older, right? Are we even going to have any Social Security?
Probably not.
One of the myths about Social Security is that it's a trust fund. There is no Social Security trust fund. There never has been. Social Security is funded through current income tax.
Right. Yeah. Your income tax that comes out of your check, right?
It's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. Ponzi scheme. Oh.
And that's why immigration is so important, because you have to be increasing the population constantly in order to keep Social Security going. It's a fraud, in short. It's
more fraud. Why is that not surprising? More government fraud.
In order to change it, I think you'd have to repeal the 17th Amendment. Because the people want more largesse, but your state legislators would rather they give the largesse to the people rather than the federal government give it to them. And if the state legislators give it to them, they're bound by, they have to balance the budget. They don't have the rubber checks that the federal government does. So if you put it back give the state legislators control, the state legislators control over the U.S. senators, you would have some push to do away with some of that stuff.
So you were a senator for 4 years or 6 years, Jerry?
8.
How many?
8.
Oh, 8.
You're representative for 4.
State representative.
Right.
Awesome. I guess I would definitely I would be very much interested in lobbying to change some of the child welfare laws. Very much. I think I would love, I'm actually kind of interested in running for public office, but I don't know I don't know where that, what kind of office seat would kind of legislate that, you know what I'm
Run for
saying?
the state legislature.
Oh, state legislature?
Yeah. What state you in?
South Carolina.
Oh, okay. I don't
Yeah,
know who's the legislature in your district, or legislators.
right. Mm-hmm.
I'm curious.
So, I mean, do you have to have experience, or can you just, get in there and be like, okay, let's see what I can change in here.
I would recommend you go to some political meetings, either
Missed it.
Republican.
I'm not gonna let
or
nobody tell you
Democrat.
what happened either. Uh-huh.
To what?
Oh, Jack watched that last episode on Yellowstone because I jumped on here with you guys and gave up an episode of Yellowstone. So I was watching that marathon I told you about, that show. And he's like, you missed it. And I'm not going to let anybody tell you what happened. It's okay. I'm sure I can Google it, Jack.
I'm curious about one thing, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but we got some feedback on one of your previous podcasts, and specifically, Tennessee Attorney Connie Reguli said that she was so happy that we finally got part of your story out, and I was just wondering, what interaction have you had with her, and what is she telling you about your case? I take it she never got directly involved, right?
No, I just kept Connie in the loop a little bit. I talked to her on the phone with a friend of hers. She was, I asked her advice about stuff, and she was the one who was told me, that I needed to go to the top, go to the state, go to the very, very tip top. She's like, the money funnels down and you've got to go to the top and, just keep going. She was and she did tell me when I got my kids back, she was like, we need advocates. We need advocates like you. Your story needs to be told. She's like, she just told me, she's like, I hope that you're not going to run scared and that you'll keep telling your story. She goes, because it needs to be changed. We need advocates. We need people like you to get out there and make a change. So.
Well, that's kind of what took me to the state legislature. It may do the same for you.
Yeah. So, well, where would is there like classes or something? Yeah, I mean, I know I can go to like board meetings and council meetings and things like that.
Would you run under a party? What party would you run under?
That's a tough question. Can you run as a conservative?
Well, not unless there's not, the only state that has a conservative party, I believe, is New York, and it's not much of a conservative party. That was what James Buckley was elected senator under.
Oh, well,
but I
I
mean,
would choose Republican then. I would run for the Republican.
also,
Then you might want to go to pachyderm lunches, or you might want to go to the Republican Central Committee in your area.
Okay.
They'd be glad to have you in the audience.
Yeah, you said it's the Republican Central Committee?
Right.
Okay.
sometimes
And
they
pachyderm lunches. The
Pachyderm
Club.
lunches?
pachyderm, that's the skin of an elephant.
Pachyderm. Never heard of those.
PACHYDERM.
DERM, yeah, PACHYDERM. Huh. Pachyderm.
when I was president of College Republicans in Tulane, we had a newspaper called the Tulane Pachyderm.
Uh-huh. Huh, well, interesting. Is that in like all 50 states too, Jerry?
I'm not positive, but I believe so. I think they all have central committees.
Yeah. Pachyderms.org. Interesting.
There you go. Go.
Your daughters want your attention, or they want to join? You know, we're happy to have them join, Len.
I know, I would love to have Jack in here.
Well, or your daughters.
I know. My daughters are, they're doing, doing the teenage thing. But yeah,
You mentioned that one of your daughters was interested in suing CPS, and I guess I'd like to talk to you about that a little bit more. It's difficult to sue CPS because they have all sorts of immunities.
but can you sue the foster parents?
That's that I think we'd have to look at North Carolina or South Carolina law.
Well, it'd be Georgia because it happened in Georgia, right?
You'd have to look at Georgia law then.
Yeah, because that's where it
Montana,
happened.
In the Montana Constitution, it states that the government is not immune unless it's set up special by the legislature to be immune. So it starts starts with being believed not to be immune. So you can sue a lot of the state.
But again, that's
Wow.
Montana.
Yeah, I'm liking Montana's laws. You're enticing me even more, Jerry, about how much more I want to live in Montana.
Oh, come on.
I think the thing is that basically Montana has a much more libertarian spirit, even in the Republican Party than, South Carolina has two of the wimpiest Republicans in the country. It has Nikki Haley and Lindsey Graham, and they're barely even rhinos. Lindsey Graham in particular, he votes with the Democrats all the time. And Nikki Haley is, I'm particularly angry at her because she's the one who took down the Confederate flag off the state capitol, but she became the United States ambassador to the United Nations. So she's a total globalist. She comes from a Sikh background, and I don't mean she was unhealthy.
Yeah, Sikh. I know who the Sikhs are. Mm-hmm.
She's just she and Lindsey Graham are two of the absolute worst, and it's just very ironic because Lindsey Graham, of course, is sitting in a Strom Thurmond's seat, and he was absolutely one of the best. He actually amended the Civil Rights Act, the main civil rights action, he attempted to clarify that a judge who acts outside of jurisdiction has no immunity for violation of civil rights, but that for whatever reason, the judges of the United States have not allowed that to take root. They like their immunity, even when they arguably act without jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't impressed with Nikki Haley either. Didn't Trump and Nikki Haley had something that
he appointed her to the United Nations.
He appointed her. Yeah, that's right.
So I regard that as a strike against Trump, actually. But I guess he figured that it's fairly harmless. She can't do much damage there.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely interested about changing legislation. So I definitely am going to get with Jerry on that because I don't think any family should have to go through what we went through for 2 years. I mean, that's just asinine to me. It should not take 2 years to investigate an allegation and accuse us of coaching our children and taking our children for 2 years over alleged coaching.
Well, you raised an interesting point earlier. In the past, for a father to have carnal knowledge of his daughter would be a police matter. And the police never got involved in your case at all. There was no kind of criminal investigation at all, which in itself is an admission that there was simply no valid evidence.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, they didn't, I mean, I think they investigated, but there were no criminal charges filed. I mean, they were investigating Jack and digging into his past and all his past marriages and everything. So, I mean, they did investigate Jack, but they didn't file any, there were no criminal charges filed, none at all.
In particular, the key witnesses, namely the children, disavowed any such thing.
Right. Yeah. Our kids said, my dad's not guilty. My dad's not a sick pedophile and he's a good dad. So we want to go home to our dad and, let us go home.
It's just, but you see, I mean, in other words, we've created this structure outside the criminal system where, based on not even a preponderance of the evidence, but merest allegation. I mean, really low. Obviously, the police never thought there was even probable cause to make any arrest, because if they had thought there was probable cause, they probably would have made an arrest. And so, we've created this family court system, and this goes back to the question: is the family court of any value? Because that I wanted to raise in the beginning, because if you can tear apart a family based on, imagine me. I've never met you. I've never met Jack. I've certainly never met your kids. And, in essence, though, on this program right now, I suppose I could make allegations that I can look at you and tell that you're a terrible mother and that you're lying, and that obviously Jack was the pedophile he was alleged to be. And so, if somebody was listening, if some CPS was listening and they said, well, this guy on a video said that he can look in your eyes and tell that you're a liar, and he can see, he claims that he can read your facial expressions and your hand expressions. I mean, look at you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says he's gone through training to interpret all this stuff. And so he can tell that the way you've got your hand on your chin right now is a liar's.
Whether I'm lying or not.
Just the grin you've got on your face. I mean, these are all signs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we've got. We've got people making that kind of allegation, and yet it's not a joke between you and me, because we actually know that if I was with CPS, DFCS,
DHS.
whatever it's called, Department of Children and Families, based on exactly the kind of nonsense I'm saying, I could take your kids away.
I think we could improve the system if we'd allow jury trials in family law court.
Absolutely. Jury trials. Oh yeah. That was a big thing that was everybody, we even talked about that. We wanted a jury trial. We told them that. We were demanding a jury trial.
As far as I know, the only state that officially mandates a right to a jury trial in custody cases is the state of Texas. And even in the state of Texas, they fight it tooth and nail, because they don't want to limit the power of They don't want to limit the power of these bureaucrats, these basically mindless interloping bureaucrats who make careers out of making allegations like, I could look at her and I could see that she was lying. I mean, that's basically exactly what happened in your case, right? That they said that you could tell that your children, your daughters were being coached, even the 4-year-old, right?
Well, that's what they were alleging. Yeah, they were alleging that I coached my kids before a forensic interview.
And they were saying it based on their expressions and their mannerisms. I mean, exactly what I was saying a few seconds ago is what they were saying, and using this testimony to persuade a judge to enter this order for services, as they call them. And the judge has that kind of power. I mean,
Yeah.
oh,
There you go.
is this your grandkid?
Yeah. Yeah, my grandson.
I can tell by his facial expressions, he's been coached to say he loves you.
I know. Right. Haley, you want to say hi? Come here. Come here, Haley. Come sit down. No, you don't need a chocolate cupcake. Come sit down. Yeah, I mean that whole they had nothing to say against me, so they had to come up with something. So coaching was the what they used in court. What could we say against Lynette Beavers? To try to justify taking her kids. Oh, coaching. Okay, that sounds great. So they just had to make something up, I guess.
And the investigator testified. I believe he was a police investigator. He testified that he was trained to recognize the signs of coaching.
Well, Ezra. Yeah, the investigator testified that he believed the kids were coached because of the adult language that they used.
They were cursing or what? I mean, what kind of adult language are you talking about?
I have no idea what adult language they use. Haley doesn't even remember what adult language she used.
I can't remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday. I have no
You can't remember what you ate for breakfast yesterday.
Neither can I. Okay.
But yeah, so maybe we could continue and on another episode. I'm sure there's a bunch of different.
Well,
Maybe we should stop for this year and for the rest of the year.
Yeah, continue for 2022. And what kind of changes can we make in 2022?
There we go.
Mhm.
you're running for office.
Maybe there should be anti-coaching laws. I don't know.
What do they mean poaching?
Who knows? That they tried to say that I coached the kids what to say in the forensic interview.
Oh, coached.
Yeah, like coached the kids and said, "Oh, don't your dad's not guilty, so you need to, coaching them, teaching them what to say in a forensic
As they were trying to
interview.
use leading questions, I suppose.
Yeah, leading. Yeah, like right.
They were trying to use leading questions, so they're blaming you for coaching, so the leading questions didn't work.
I mean,
Use this 4-year-old of using adult language. I mean, I can just see that, they're basically saying.
I can't buy that. I don't think Hannah at 4 years old is able to use adult language at 4 years old. Yeah, she was talking. Yeah. All I know is that 2 years of her life, I mean, from 4 to 6, those are formative years. Those are very formative years in a child's life.
What a traumatic thing to have happened.
What's that?
What a traumatic thing to have happen.
Yeah. It was, but we want to turn it and make it good. We don't want any other families to go through it. So if I can make a change or do something, I definitely want to. I want to teach, I just want to teach and help and advocate I want to advocate for change. I want to be a change leader. So,
One thing, I mean, if we did have jury trials easily set up in custody cases, it would certainly discourage people from saying things like, I've been trained to see coaching. Oh, really? Can you demonstrate for us? Have you been coached? I mean, people, the thing about juries is that they sometimes use common sense. Sometimes I guess they can be persuaded by hyper emotionalism and things like that. But on the whole, I think that they know that when people's lives and people's children's lives are on the line, that they shouldn't be swayed by emotions. They should be swayed by what appears to be common sense and fact.
right.
In Montana, Jerry, do you have custody juries for a right to trial by jury in custody cases?
I don't believe so.
Because traditionally, of course, it reminds me of the conversations
Hey,
we
can you give me a bottle of water?
with Larry. Custody and all things relating to the family, when they were taken away from ecclesiastical courts, they were reclassified into equity.
Right, and that's, I don't know. Hey, we should, I don't care if it's law or equity, we still should have a right to a jury trial in them.
And there should probably be consistent standards of proof, don't you think?
Consistent what? Consistent what?
There should be consistent standards of proof. It shouldn't be on a mere suggestion.
Yeah, standard of proof, right.
In other words, at least be the preponderance of the evidence, and not, as that judge said in Lynette's case, well, I don't think this is fabricated. That's exactly his words, right? I don't think this was
Yeah,
fabricated.
Judge Miller, the first judge, Judge Miller, she said she didn't think it was fabricated. The one that, yeah, oh.
That
That got her off the bench, though.
that's a very low standard of proof, isn't it? Well, I don't think it was fabricated. That's not even saying I think it's true. That's saying if it's not true, I just don't know how it's not true. I mean, it's such a wishy-washy, weird thing to say, and in other words, family courts, as they are, probably. Do we all agree that family courts, as they are currently operating, are probably worthless?
I don't agree with that, no.
Operating now, it's pretty worthless out there. I mean, I feel sorry for people that have to go through divorces.
Well, Jerry, what do you think they're worth?
Sometimes you need a decision to be made. No matter what the decision is, a decision is better than nothing at all. Sometimes. But I think we need better judges. I think we need to break the monopoly of the Bar Association so we have some competition in who can be a judge.
Well, so I go back. Can we agree that the family courts as presently constituted are worthless?
No, I don't agree. I agree. I believe you have to be real careful about it because they can be horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement too. I don't think it's worthless. I think it needs to be. I think there needs to be an overhaul. Is what I think.
All courts are dangerous, and one of the reasons they're dangerous is because judges are people, and they're not necessarily the smartest or the most competent or the most honest people.
Yes, they're human, right? I mean, human.
Right.
Depends on if you have a humanistic judge or if you have a political judge who has a political agenda, and if they're on the bench, for what reason, how do they want to use their bench? How do they want their cases to go on the bench? And I think that's a big part of family court judges. And that could be a whole nother series too about family
Right,
court.
we need competition, so we have better choices for judges. But
So Jerry's position is that the courts as they exist have value, but it's basically the state bar system and the limitation of judges to that system that is corrupting it. Is that correct?
well, I just believe that you have a better quality of providers of a service if they have competition in that service. If you have a monopoly like the state bar that controls who can be judges, it can only be members of the state bar before they can run for the position of judge or be elected or appointed to the position, then you're in trouble. You need some competition. You need more than one choice.
So does that mean that judges should be able to talk about their positions and values during elections?
Absolutely. As
That
long as you've got a substantive due process where the judge can make a ruling on what they emotionally feel, then you should be able to know what that judge actually feels and what their philosophies are.
judges should be required to campaign on a choice of values, in other words.
Well, if they should be allowed to, they shouldn't have to. If one says what their values are and the other one stays quiet, I suppose you should choose the one that has the values, either says the values or the one that doesn't say the wrong answer. I don't know. They shouldn't be muzzled in their campaigns.
Because that's
I ran for judge once, and I said that I was a Republican senator, and they got mad at me because I put politics into it.
could you have been both a senator and a judge at the same time?
No, I would have quit the Senate if I'd won the judgeship.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we should encourage Lynette to run for office. And I think that would be a very interesting project, and we'll have to explore that some more. But I have the feeling that Lynette has family obligations on New Year's Eve. And
Yeah,
yeah, just
a little bit. Yeah.
So we should probably adjourn until next year.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, talk to you later.
Good night.
Okay. For your
Good
time.
night.
Everybody, happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. May 2022 be really good.
Yeah, I think we need to say Jumanji. Maybe we can all get out of this game.
Highly, we can try.
Jumanji.
Good night, Lynette. Good night, Jerry. We'll talk soon.
Guys, bye.